recording this. So reports, the big thing that's on everybody's mind today. And I will tell you, the QuickBooks portion of the Zoom call did not record correctly. So I am re-recording just that section, adding it to the good piece of the Zoom recording so that we can keep the Q&A. So it may look a little messy, okay? So first we're going to talk about QuickBooks reports because that's software. Now, when you use software, you could literally spend all day long looking at a bazillion different reports because there's a whole bunch to choose from. All right. All software bookkeeping packages have a reports menu. And I mean, there's every stinking report under the sun to the point where you could just spend your life running reports, looking at numbers, and saying, what the hell does all this mean? Okay. So we're not going to do that. The two main reports that you want to look at in software are your profit and loss on the left side of the screen and your balance sheet report, which is on the right. All right. Now, most people don't tend to use the balance sheet report very much. So I'm just going to focus mostly on the profit and loss, and we will come back and do a quick overview of the balance sheet and what it tells you. Now, the profit and loss, usually when you pull it up, it's for the entire year. Okay. And that's kind of nice because, once you have that main report up, most bookkeeping programs will let you change the display. All right. So instead of showing just the total only, I could do this by month, which is super helpful. Okay. That way, you can look at your income by month and say, oh, hey, January was a really good month, and so was October, okay, for income. But when we get to November and December, well, they're pretty sucky, okay? But this allows you to kind of plan where your money is coming from. So if you do craft fairs, which is my handmade items here in income, you can look here and see the months where you did shows. This helps you plan for next year. Do I want to come back and do this show that I did in February? The income was, do I want to come back and do this show in September? Maybe, maybe not. It helps you evaluate how good or profitable those shows were, and are they worth going back to? So really, you kind of want to keep your income split out by how you're making it. So here I have custom orders where I'm only charging basically time because somebody already provided the materials. I can see my digital goods, and I can see my craft fair sales, okay, from my handmade items. Now, you can usually also change this report to display by quarter, which is very helpful when it comes time to doing your sales and use tax return. the one thing I want to impress on you is that if you're only looking at the yearly totals, you're missing out on a lot. Yes, this is a great report to help you do your taxes, but it's not telling you anything about the detail. So always change the software report to display by month so that you can analyze each month. Okay. Now, one thing I want to tell you, in software, the profit and loss never shows you how much money you spent on inventory. That's when you have to go look at your balance sheet report. Okay. And then you have to do a lot of gyrations, and I will get to that. And that's why when I did the 10-minute bookkeeper, I did things differently. Okay. Because you need to see how much money you're spending on inventory, and it needs to be like right there in your face. Okay. So we've already talked about income. Now let's talk about cost of goods. So let's take February, for example. I had $191.70 worth of sales at the craft fair. Now, in order to make that $191, I used $21.72 worth of materials that came out of inventory. Okay, so I know, sorry, that you know I made a fair amount in profit. All right. Now, I also had $359 worth of digital goods. Now, all my craft fair sales were in cash, so I automatically know that my merchant account fees of $879 is directly related to the digital goods. All right. So in reality, my cost of goods was very low to make that $350 at the bottom line in income. Okay. So that's when we start looking at our gross profit. Now, gross profit is your total income minus your cost of goods. So that's the money that essentially you made from selling your products until we get to expenses. Now, expenses, this is where we really want to pay attention because expenses are going to eat up our gross profit. And that's where we get in trouble. So you can, if we look across the computer and software row, you can see I spent almost $1,400 for software. Now, I'm not saying that we can't not pay for software. I'm just saying that, I spent almost half, well, actually a little over half of my gross profit just on software. And that's too much. Okay. That's just too much. So I kind of want to, with software, I can drill down on that and I can see, I had $140 in January, and most of that went to Evernote. Now, Evernote has gotten very expensive, and as a matter of fact, for 2026, this price doubled. So I know that I need to get rid of Evernote, and I did. I found a nice little alternative called UpNote, and I got a $49 lifetime license. So I'm saving money right there. And this is what you want to do. You want to zero in on your big expense months, um, and see what you can get rid of. Now, in February, it was $100 to Canva. Now, I use Canva a lot. I mean, I'm in it almost every day. So I will deal with that cost. The next really heavy month was June, and that was my Microsoft Office subscription. Again, I'm in Office just about every day, so I'm going to keep that. But when I get to September, I've got almost $600 right here. Okay. And out of that, most of it was StreamYard. All right. Almost $400. Now, StreamYard is great. I love it. I've had a subscription for, I don't know, 5, 6 years. And it used to be $200 a year. And I could live with that because StreamYard's very easy to work with. Back when I had the Facebook group, it was really easy to use StreamYard to go live, but I gave up the Facebook group because of all the drama on Facebook and all the ads. So now StreamYard doesn't integrate with the heartbeat community. So now why am I spending $400 a year on that? So I really needed to evaluate that and say, okay, I'm just going to get rid of it. All right, so that's $400 back in my pocket. I have Zoom. Now, MailerLite, that's my email software. Yeah, that's a lot of money, but I need something, and that's a decent price, so I will deal with that. So, just by looking at this, I can see that I can save myself, you know, 4, 5, almost $600 in 2026 by replacing Evernote with UpNote and by getting rid of StreamYard. Because seriously, that's a lot of money to be spending on software. All right. So this is where your P&L really can help you. All right, especially if you're using software. So next thing we want to look at is total expenses for the year. And again, like I said, that's a lot of money. And here's our net ordinary income, which is just business income minus cost of goods minus expenses. The next thing we want to look at is other income, like our ad revenue, revenue from affiliate programs, dividend income, and in some cases, depending on how much you have diversified your income, that can really save your butt. Okay. So this is money that you get because you have a business, and it's really kind of like icing on the cake because you really don't have to do a lot in order to make this income. And then bottom line is our net income. That's our ordinary income minus, or sorry, plus our other income. Okay. This is the amount that we're going to be taxed on. Okay. So, I'm not going to pretend that even though I've been a bookkeeper for close to 35 years now, that on a daily basis or a weekly basis, when I'm plugging these numbers into QuickBooks, that I really pay attention. Okay. because I don't. It's just numbers. I'm just entering information. It's not until I come and look at this P&L where those numbers actually become dollars that I pay attention to. Okay. Um, there's a fine line between numbers, entering numbers, and looking at a report and seeing dollars, but there is a big difference. Okay. Now, what you're not seeing here is how much money you've contributed to your business out of your own pocket. You're not seeing that comes from your balance sheet. You're not seeing how much money you spent on inventory. That comes from your balance sheet. And you're not seeing how much money that is, sitting in your bank account or how much money you owe in sales tax. All of that stuff comes from your balance sheet. And I'm just going to give you a quick rundown of the balance sheet. Now, the balance sheet basically just kind of gives you an overall picture of how healthy your business is. So it starts out with, the money that you have on hand. Your cash on hand, that could be like a petty cash drawer. Um, or, when you go and do a market, you've got a cash drawer. Okay. How much money is in your checking account, how much money is sitting in PayPal waiting to come over into your checking account, and how much money you have in savings. Okay, so those are assets. That's the cash that you have on hand in multiple places. Now, if you do custom work and you say to somebody, I will do this for you for X amount of dollars, but I need a 50% deposit. The other 50% sits in accounts receivable, waiting for you to finish the project and to collect that money from that person before you give them the item. Now, most of us probably won't have an accounts receivable. Now, here's inventory. Okay. Now, that's inventory since right up to the last day of 2025. Okay. So it's everything that you have bought in the last, I don't know, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, whatever, since you started your business, everything that you still have on hand. It doesn't show you how much you spent just this year. It just gives you that total amount. Okay. Now, in order to get the how much money that you spent all year, you would first have to change this report to give you a balance sheet for January 1st, 2025. Write down that number and then look at this number and do the math. Okay. So the other thing that it shows you is how much, if you have a credit card, excuse me, my voice is really bad. If you have a credit card, you can enter your credit card charges in software and it will tell you how much money is left on your credit card. It'll automatically calculate when you receive money or create an invoice to record your sales from a show. It will automatically take and transfer the sales tax over here to your balance sheet. And then it will show you member contributions that you have made over the life of your business, not just 1 year, but lifetime contributions, how much money you've taken out, how much equity there is in your business. Okay. So that equity is really how healthy your business is. Okay. And then it shows you net income for the year. Okay. So in reality, these are great reports, but they don't show you everything all in one place. So now I'm going to end this and we're going to go back to the rest of the Zoom recording where I'm going to show you this same information in the 10-minute bookkeeper. So thanks everybody. Sorry my voice is so horrible, but that's the way it is. So I'll see you in a few. God. Okay. Let me get that up here. Okay. Let me get rid of QuickBooks. And no, I don't want to. I'll just minimize that. So everybody loves spreadsheets. I do and I don't. But when I designed this, I wanted it to work a lot like QuickBooks. And in some cases, I wanted it to work better than QuickBooks. Okay. These are the exact same numbers that were in QuickBooks. But guess what? It tells me how much money I spent on inventory. Okay. I did not do too bad last year. So that was a big piece. I don't have to go anywhere. I don't have to go looking at the inventory spreadsheets to see what I spent for the current year because it's right here. I also made sure that when it started calculating cost of goods, that it did not include the amount I spent on inventory. Inventory still has a total for the quarter and the year, but when it takes income minus cost of goods, it ignores that, okay? Because inventory really is separate. So that would be like going to look at your balance sheet account in software and drilling down to figure out how much money you actually spent on inventory during the year. So all the same things. I did put in a couple of new, in addition to the inventory, I also put in a gross profit margin, okay, which is simply the percentage of income that you keep after product costs, okay? And it calculates out that percentage each and every month, but only on the P&L. It doesn't do it on the individual months. Also made sure, now, big ticket equipment purchases, that shows up on your balance sheet in software. But when you use spreadsheets, you've got to have a way of keeping track of that. Okay. That's why there's this asset and equipment purchase sheet. And all you have to do is like enter a dollar amount and what you purchased in that. And it should pop right over into your P&L, just so you can see. Because otherwise, if you're using spreadsheets, if you don't have a separate spreadsheet somewhere, you're relying on memory, which doesn't work. More often doesn't. Or you're relying on Post-it notes that are like all over the flipping place. So that was another add-on that I put into these. I made it so When we use software, we can create any account names that we want to. When you use spreadsheets, I felt it was important to make the overhead expenses match up with what was on your 1040, okay? Because everybody's question is, where does this go? You know, what stupid little block does this go into? So I made it so that you can, it's got what is it, 16 or so standard categories. You can change them, okay? Because I tried to be pretty descriptive. Um, you can change these account names. You can add other account names, okay? And you want to do that in the January sheet, and then it populates all the other sheets automatically. Um, so the other thing I did was I added an owner contributions and an owner's draw so that you can, because this is important too. I mean, you need to know how much money you're dumping into your business that comes out of the family budget. Because at some point, you you have to sit back and evaluate things and say, this really isn't a business. I was hoping it would be. It's really just an expensive hobby, which is always sad. And it's one of the things that few coaches ever really say out loud. Um, I'm going to give you the down and dirty nitty gritty. Okay. Um, you also need to know how much you're taking in owner's draw. Another really important piece. If you're not taking money out of your business, you're not planning for that. Okay. Most handmade business owners say, well, I'll pay myself later. I don't know about you, but if you don't plan for it, it doesn't happen. It later becomes this big mystical, I don't know, frothy crystal ball that just doesn't happen. So owner contributions, owner draws, super important. I put the sales tax that I collected. Okay. Again, I had a February show and then I had one later in the fall. So I know that I need to pay this. Special calculations. This is where it's going to tell you, okay, if you made this much money in net income, you should really be setting aside this much money for taxes, and it will do it on a monthly basis. Now, you do want to look at last year's tax return, and it will tell you what tax bracket you're in. You can plug that in here, and it will calculate whatever that percentage is of your net income. This is also the latest and greatest of the 10-minute bookkeeper reports. Because every time I think I'm done with it, no, I think of one more thing. And Janice came up with one. Okay. And that's just a simple yearly summary. So I added that. So any of you who have the 10-minute bookkeeper, if you log into ThriveCart, download the newest version, that will be in here. I also put in password protected formulas, so you don't have to worry about breaking them anymore. And this one is super simple. It automatically transfers those yearly totals from your P&L over into this sheet, into this yearly summary. Um, working with CPAs is probably one of the hardest things because every CPA is going to want something different. Some CPAs want the entire big old spreadsheet. Some just want a yearly summary. Some want things broken down by quarter. I swear to God, it's like you can't please them. So that is reports. And those are the two. Cash flow. Some people will tell you you need a cash flow report. A cash flow report for a handmade business, it's almost a waste of time because our income is so sporadic. We may have 3 or 4 months where we go and we do markets, and that's like 2/3 of our income for the year. And then the rest of the year, we're relying on online sales. There are going to be months where we have nothing. And those months aren't failures. It's just we don't work like a Walmart or the mom and pop convenience store where we can sit there and say, okay, our income runs just about steady at X amount of dollars every month. That's not the way a handmade business works. So my thought is skip a cash flow report because it's just going to like drive you crazy. And just pay attention to that P&L. At least you want to give it a quick rundown like every month. You really want to focus on it at the quarter. Because again, we're not spent some of our expenses, like website hosting or a MailerLite subscription or a Canvas subscription. Those things are fixed costs. We know that as long as we have those items, we're going to have this charge in this month. But the rest of the time, everything fluctuates. We might have FOMO and go out and spend $300 on a course that 3 weeks later we sit back and say, why in the hell did I do that? I got this 3 weeks ago. I haven't even cracked it open. Or, you come and you look, at the end of the quarter and you say, business education. Okay. What did I spend this money on? I mean, some things are just, at the time they sounded good. And when you're plugging in those numbers on a daily basis or on a numbers. So at the end of the month, you really got to stop and look at those numbers that are now dollars. And I think that's one of the reasons I formatted this the way I did. The actual individual totals, they look like just numbers. But when you get to a total, then hey, it's dollars. This is dollars. This translates into dollars, and a lot of us, you know, whether we are just starting out or whether we've been in business for 5, 10, 15, 20, even Karen, you've been in business what, like 25 years? Yeah.
28.
28. I was close. Um, at some point we really need to evaluate what the hell we're spending money on. Because every time we spend money on something that is too expensive or ends up being worthless because it was a fear of missing out purchase, that means we have to work that much harder in order to pay ourselves. And none of us, I mean, we all started a handmade business because we wanted it to pay us. That's what businesses do. And if we're not paying ourselves, we really need to stop and take a look at that. And that's why the P&L is probably your biggest friend, because it's impartial. It says, okay, here's what you spent. Here's what you had in income. Here's the money that basically saved your butt from having to put money out of your pocket into this business. And that's why people like Pam Crochetpreneur talks about, diversifying your income. And I truly believe that that is a good thing. Diversify it. I mean, don't put all your proverbial eggs in one basket, because then you're limiting yourself. Okay. So, God, sorry. I'm going to quit sharing. You guys can turn up, ask questions, and we'll go from there. Stop share. There we go. Oh, and I got stuff in the chat, maybe. All right. So, and seriously, you can turn on your microphones and just kind of um, be be courteous. Janice says, I purchased a course. Where would I put it on the spreadsheet? It's a pattern writing course. You can put it, I would probably put that in business education, because that's more of a how-to. It's not necessarily something that would replace software. Um, um, Kathy wants to know if business education goes under subscriptions on this spreadsheet. My choice is I want to keep them separate. Okay. So, for example, if, and I am a member of CBA, and I know that is a recurring subscription. That's where I put that. Yes, it's all educational, but it's not like a one-off shot. So I tend to keep subscriptions in one place, whereas those one-off courses I put just under education. Um, yeah, but anybody else? AJ, I'm going to pick on you. Does this help you understand what the hell reports are all about?
Yeah, mostly it's been the fear of missing out, fear that I'm supposed to be looking at something that I haven't been looking at, and not understanding why I'm looking at it. So because I did buy the 10-minute bookkeeper, thank you. It helps to go over that for me. and see where I should be looking. You know, because I think there's a way of looking at reports to find out, am I charging the right amount? Should I be charging more for this product? Should I not sell this product anymore because it's not making enough money? And is that where I look at?
Um, okay, on a product by product basis, I would look at the handmade business product and pricing calculator because that one's going to zero in that has actually two functions. One, as you're making your item and entering what it costs you to make that item, it's tallying that all up. Okay. That becomes your uh, cost of the finished item. When the finished item sells, then it comes over and it hit COGS on your P&L. The second thing it does is it allows you to put in what you feel your fair hourly wage is. If you paid more, if you bought something on sale, but its regular price was much higher, you've got cost plus retail, and retail is what you use for pricing. Okay. It also takes into consideration how long it takes you to make that item. And right there on that one little spreadsheet, there's this snapshot that says, oh, hell no, it took me, it took me 25 hours to do this. It's suggesting I sell it for this because it does give you a spot to enter overhead and a markup and blah, blah, blah. And it takes all of those things into consideration for your sales price. But the bottom line comes down to, is this something that's really viable? Now, I've gotten on a kick of, hold on a second, because she's not quite finished. She is 18 inches tall. Granted, it's the first time I've ever done this, but she's not finished. She still has one more layer in her skirt. She has wings. And I think I've got 60 hours into this right now. This would be a specialty item. Okay, this would be a collector's piece. This is not something that I could take to my local craft fair and sell for $45 because I would kick myself in the butt big time. Okay. Um, these will be, and I do have a few of those. I have collector items, and then I have the little cutesy ones that, I'd sell for like 35 bucks, 40 bucks, 45 bucks because they don't take long to do. They're certainly not the level of detail. The hair alone on that one was enough. I did this while I was sick, and I just needed a project that would keep my focus and my attention because the little stuff just wasn't cutting it. So yeah, I would look at that product and pricing calculator. That plus you got to know in your heart or in your gut that yeah, this is a collector piece. This needs the right person. I could be hanging on to this thing for 1, 2, maybe 3 years. Will I make 10 of them? Oh, hell no. One,
Mm.
yes. And I would do them as custom orders from that point forward. But yeah, I mean, it's always good to look at the narrow scope, which is one specific product. And then, look at the big overall picture of money coming in and out of your business. Um, Another thing that you might want to look at is um, still part of the 10-minute bookkeeper, that the fair wage calculator. Because the first thing that one says is, how much money do you want to pay yourself this year? Oh my God, pay myself. Now you're planning on paying yourself. It's not yeah, later or with whatever's left, because we all know there's nothing left. Um, then the next thing it says to you is, okay, how many hours do you have available to work on your handmade business each week? So, I mean, right off the bat, that one makes you start thinking about things that you probably don't normally think about, because, we all like to make, it's fun. Then it talks about, and based on that, it says, okay, in order for you to pay yourself this much money, working these many hours per week, and covering taxes, your fair wage needs to be this. Then the last part of it is, you look at last year's expenses and you plug them into this calculator, and then it it recalculates the whole thing, and it comes up with, if you want to pay yourself this much, working this many hours, pay your taxes and cover all your bills, plus have money to reinvest in your business, you need to be charging this amount per hour. And sometimes it's shocking, especially if we're doing a lot of fear of missing out spending. And that's probably the biggest benefit of that whole profit and loss. What the hell am I spending? You know, not so much. And then the next step is, what specifically am I spending this on? Is it something that is some sort of stupid subscription that I forgot about, and they just keep charging every year on the credit card? Is it viable? Is it something I use every day? Case in point, Evernote. You know, I have had an Evernote subscription for probably 10 years. The first time I paid for the annual subscription, it was $70. Then it doubled. And now it's doubled again. And it was like, as much as I love Evernote, I love being able to access it from multiple devices or the web or on my iPad. And then it was like, okay, how much of it do I really use? Do I need that cluttered little dashboard with all of its sticky notes? Oh, hell no, because I turned that off. I just want to go in, pull up a note, and start banging. So I started looking around, and I probably tried 5 or 6 others, and then I came up with UpNote, and it was like $49 for a lifetime license. Oh, hell yeah. They had a free trial. It was clean and simple and uncluttered, and uh, it promised all the right things. Import from Evernote. Yeah, okay. Can I really? Well, look at that, man. That's slick. Okay, perfect. 49 bucks. Here I come. Same with StreamYard. The nice thing about StreamYard was I can stream live to Instagram or TikTok or Facebook, which I gave up the Facebook group, so that's kind of like, um, but it would never work with Heartbeat. They want Zoom. Okay, $391 versus 150 for Zoom. Yep, 391 bucks is coming back into my pocket. You know, sometimes we hang on to things just in case. You I thought, well, it was a lot easier with StreamYard to live stream into a Facebook group. What if I decide I want to do another Facebook group? And it was like, no, you fool. There was a reason you left Facebook. So that was easy to make that decision. It's just going to go. Anybody else got a
Can I
question?
can I ask a quick question with regards to the subscriptions and that kind of thing? Because
Sure.
I put I'm in CBA, the same as you are, and I have your subscription and I have a couple of other ones. Um, and I put them along with my Canva subscription and my Staples subscription and this, all under subscription and software.
Okay.
Um, should I take them out and put them under, like sort them under education and software? Or
Not
does
if
it
it
make a
makes
big
sense to
difference?
you. Not if it makes sense to you. There's no right or wrong. Okay. As
Okay.
far as taxes go, they both go in that other
So they're going to
pot.
end up in the same place anyway,
Yep.
all added up into the same place.
Yep.
So it doesn't.
Uh,
Okay.
the-
I was
I
just
mean,
concerned because
a
I
lot
thought,
of
well, yeah, it
bookkeeping
makes
is
sense to put them
what
under
makes sense to
education
us.
because it's different.
No, God, no. You've been doing that in Wave for what, 3 years
Two
now?
years at least now. At least 2 years.
It's
So like I
habit.
was concerned because I thought, oh, maybe I should put it
It,
separated out. And it's
no,
like, do I want to do that for last year?
nope,
Or
absolutely not. It works. You know exactly where it goes. You don't have to stop and say, oh, where did I put this? Don't
yeah,
change a
exactly.
damn
It's
thing.
like the AI stuff that I got when it was telling me, all you have to do is put down the simple uh one simple transaction per month with regards to your sales instead of doing it the way I was doing it because I wanted to keep track of the patterns that I was selling. And it was saying, well, put them into a spreadsheet as opposed to Wave. And I'm like, yeah, but that's giving myself more work because then I got to create the spreadsheet in order to do that. And now I got to transfer all that information. And I'm like,
You
as
know,
much as that would be easier to do in Wave, one transaction per month for my sales, it's like, really, do I want to do that? All
it,
that other work for it?
and that's, I mean, AI can be great, but
Oh, it's
AI
fabulous for helping me in other things.
AI has never once in its mechanical software written brain ever done bookkeeping. It has no freaking clue what it's really
This is
like.
true.
I- you know, um, I've I've had Chat GPT help me like clean up some old posts on the blog, and I argue with it.
Oh yes, I argue with it too. It's
You
like,
know,
keep me
it's
on
like
track. You're not keeping me
one
on
day I
track.
said, I'm typing away, you have never fucking done one goddamn bookkeeping transaction in your life. And it comes back and it says, oh, I stand corrected. You're absolutely right. I really never have done a bookkeeping transaction. And it was like, then you don't tell me how to redo that. You know, you can help me maybe make this a little clearer, make it sound less accounting class reading material. Um, but God damn it, don't tell me how to give them step-by-step instructions.
I think
And I'm sitting here, I'm just cracking up because it was like this is what
yeah.
happens when you spend all your time alone and you have prednisone induced brain. Uh, I really, it was just like arguing with a CPA over something. Please don't tell me how to do a bookkeeping transaction, and I won't freaking tell you how to do a tax return.
Beginning to
So
think of Chat GPT as more like reading tarot cards, as oh, it's a thing to think about, but maybe it's not going to tell you exactly what you need to know.
yeah, yeah. You know, I mean, as far as writing like basic stuff or coming up with ideas, it's incredible. I mean, it comes up with things that even my prednisone brain wouldn't even think of. But you know, as far as like a how to, it's like, yeah, no. But when I realized what I was doing, it was like, oh my God, I am arguing with software. I am swearing at software.
I've spent my entire career of dealing with computers since 1983, swearing and arguing with software. So to me, it's no different.
Yeah, yeah. You know, and I think that's one of the reasons I want to get out of the software business. Not that, I mean, we've been doing it 26 years. Um, we have some great customers, but I just I can't do it anymore. I just you know, this winter was a big wake up call for me. You know, I am not a good patient. I am not a happy sick person. Um, Add to that not being able to breathe. Yeah, and I have to say that that silly little puppy, he I ended up sleeping on our recliner sofa probably most of this year. It's only been the last 3 weeks that I've actually managed to go up and sleep in our bed. And apparently, there would be nights where I would wake myself up because I was breathing so horribly, and other nights he would wake me up. No, and if you've ever had a boxer, you know they're like, woo! And instead of woo, it was like this very, very soft, gentle little kiss on my cheek. And it was like that in itself was enough to bring me out of it. Like, oh my God, what's wrong with you? Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've worked for the software business more than maybe 5 hours a month. except for when it was time to do quarterlies and year end and W-2s and get stuff ready for the CPA. And then even that was a struggle. So yeah, that was a very big wake up call. And I still don't know what's wrong with me.
Well, yeah, and that's really frustrating. I'm hoping that my medical stuff is done for a few years, because it's been a rough 2 years.
Oh, it has been. Sorry, I think this is my husband telling me I got to go
Okay.
get the dog. So
Okay.
now you guys
Oh, okay.
open up and chat.
Chat amongst yourselves.
Well,
I love
thank
the
you all for
colors on
being
your
here.
sweater, Janice. I love the colors on your sweater, Janice.
Janice, do you know how to unmute yourself? I just sent you a little thing. Let's see. Ask to unmute. There you go.
know,
That really is. That's a beautiful sweater.
Yes.
I was watching YouTube and they were doing I don't even remember who the person was, but it was a crochet along. And it's based off, I guess, Harry Styles' sweater thing is how it came out later. So it's just a bunch of rectangles stitched together.
Ooh, how fun.
It was fun.
Okay, anybody have any more questions about reports? Well, if you do, you know where to find me.
Yeah, so I'm still however many years into this, taking such little baby steps with figuring out and managing the finances of this business. I mostly wing it. I'm like, okay, I'm bringing in this much. I've paid this much this year, this month. I'm good. Um, but and tremendously because of your program, I'm so much better off than I was. I'm still not walking all the talk or any of that. But so when one is on top of things, you're saying that these are good to look at monthly. The P&L.
Yeah, profit and loss, I would look at it every month. And if you're using that 10-minute bookkeeper, I mean, as you enter transactions on a daily basis, it's going to total up amounts for that day, as well as the month. It's probably easier at that point to just kind of switch over to the P&L. Whatever works for you. But yeah, just keep an eye on that P&L report, because that's going to alert you, especially when you have to start throwing money into at your business. That's always a tough one for all of us to swallow. I mean, not when we're first starting out, because that's normal. When we start out, we have nothing. And in order to cover those startup costs, well, it has to come out of our pocket. But as time goes on, that the business should be breaking even or even showing a little bit of profit.
Yeah. All right. Very good. And yeah, thank you for all this. And I do have one more. I don't know if it's a quick question, but I'm going to ask it.
Okay.
So I am just, as I kind of said, I mostly do this in my head. I mean, I have a drawer full of receipts and I have my bank statements and I get all my things mostly through email. So I'm able to access everything and then, do some archaeology and recreate what I need to recreate. And I'm ridiculously meticulous to make sure that everything adds up and that I found everything, but it's certainly not efficient. It would be efficient if I actually really did keep up with it, but I'm not there yet. I will be. ADHD doesn't help. Um, so, because this is not, interesting until it's urgent, which is tax time. Um, so, given that I've been wanting to do software, and I don't have a ton of ins and outs. Most of what I have, they're in like bigger chunks, and there's not a lot of them. Is it worthwhile going backwards and putting it into software for last year?
No, I mean,
Okay.
a simple spreadsheet would be fine, but the whether it's the 10-minute bookkeeper or whether it's a simple spreadsheet that you design. I mean, if the main thing is to do something with it. You know,
Right.
have you done taxes yet?
I have not, and we will certainly be um, getting an extension.
Okay.
The one thing that I do in software, I use Wave for that right now, is all of my invoices are in Wave, but I haven't been putting things like my expenses. And my big thing that I don't wrangle well is inventory. That um, my big challenge there is that I work at the candy store 1 day a week, and so I overbuy materials because for fear of missing out. They won't be there when I have the fabulous idea of what I want to do with it. So I have this tremendous stock of inventory. Um, yeah, that is my biggest struggle.
If you're already using Wave, I would enter the expenses there, and that way you've got a complete picture. Okay.
Okay.
Right now you have half the picture. You have your income. It shouldn't take too long, and you don't have to organize your receipts because software is forgiving. You pick up a receipt, you change your date, you slam it in, it puts it where it's supposed to.
It puts it in the right place. Yeah. Okay.
Y- y-
Good.
You know, but yeah, I think seeing you're already using Wave, I would just pull that piece of it in there.
Yeah, and I've been toying with the idea of moving over to Zoho because of the inventory piece. Um, but I haven't done that yet, and I because I knew the Wave inventory, not inventory, the Wave the income bit, and so I haven't moved over there
And Zoho, honestly, Zoho is going to be more of a learning curve.
yet.
Okay.
Yeah, so I can
It,
just keep my inventory on the spreadsheet that I used last year and use Wave for the ins and outs.
yeah, and that might work. I mean, when we initially start out with choosing a system for our bookkeeping, we're not making a lifelong commitment. Okay. Um, as our business grows, spreadsheets are going to feel very cumbersome,
Mhm.
and you're going to want software. Um, me, I mean, I've been using software since the 80s. There was a long time that some things were done in software, some things were done in spreadsheets because the spreadsheets or the software didn't have that capability. And at this point, I have used QuickBooks for so many years. I can do stuff in QuickBooks without thinking. And Wave was daunting because it didn't work like QuickBooks. Zoho works like Zoho. It doesn't work like QuickBooks. It doesn't work like Wave. The nice thing was that the inventory piece works close to what QuickBooks does in the fact that I can have not only individual skeins of yarn, but I can take 30 yards of white and 45 yards of some other color and this little thing, that little thing, and some buttons, and I can literally build my finished item in Zoho. I can do that in QuickBooks. QuickBooks calls it an inventory assembly. I don't even remember what Zoho calls it, but that was a nice plus that I saw there. But the thing is, don't wait until the last second. Yeah, okay. To change accounting programs or accounting methods or systems. Because you're going to want to find something that works for you. I still, that version of QuickBooks that I pulled up, that is the QuickBooks 2021 version. I still use it because I don't need payroll. That was the last year that it was a lifetime program. Now it's annual subscription. And like a lot of corporate America companies, they've gotten greedy. What used to cost $349 for a year is now $900 for a year. And let me tell you, I have that QuickBooks program saved off onto a flash drive, and it's in the safe deposit box at the bank. And I also have a copy of it on an external hard drive. And I will use it until I can't anymore. And when I can't, I will probably go to Zoho. Unless there's some new bright shiny object that comes down the road that I like, that's going to give me the same functionality that I'm used to. I kind of feel sorry for anybody looking at software today because the stuff that's out there, it's either horribly expensive or it looks like it hasn't been updated in 20 years. And all of that stuff is scary. And that was one of the reasons that I did build the 10-minute bookkeeper, because it was like, yeesh, people need something.
Yeah. All right, excellent. Well, thank you for your time today and for
Not
all
a
the work that
problem.
you
It
do
was
to.
it was nice to get on with you guys. I've really kind of missed this, but I was positive that you didn't want to listen to me hack the entire time.
So going back to the ADHD and trying to do a little bit at a time, ADHD here. one of the things that is helpful is if you set a time, or if you do make an effort to do it every week, all the weeks that you forget to do it, you still get back to it sooner than if you don't even try to do it every week.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's what's been helpful for me, is not beating myself up because I missed it for the last 3 weeks. And
Life
that takes,
happens.
Yeah.
yeah, and yeah. So and my brain just forgets sometimes that it's been 3 weeks. So, the other thing is, and this is the weirdest thing, I didn't know that I could do it Monday morning. you know I had no idea I could just get up Monday morning and do that, when my brain was like, oh, let's focus on something really fiddly, when my brain likes to do spreadsheet stuff. So, you know so yeah.
Monday
Yeah.
morning, midnight on Saturday. I mean, whatever works.
And if you've
Yeah.
got a
That's
shifted
actually
circadian rhythm like I do, 3 o'clock in the morning, that's when
right. Yeah. And that's one of the things that I've been experimenting and moving around because I am learning. You would think that after however many decades of life, you would have this figured out, but no, that's not how it works. I'm now learning that there are optimal times for me to do things, and I'm
Mhm,
so much better at tackling and managing things
mhm.
depending on what they are at different times of the day. I haven't found the time to sit down and do this yet, but I think it's because I keep pushing it to the afternoon, and I think I'm too distractible in the afternoon. I do think I have to try it in the morning, and Mondays might be a good day when really nothing is pressing yet in the week because it's such a fresh week, right?
Sometimes I have to
So,
do things before I have time to think about it. Because if
hmm
I spend time
hmm
thinking about it, then I have all the excuses. But if I can, you know, get up and hop into the shower before I have time to think about what I'm doing, then I'm more likely to do it.
yeah, good
Yeah.
point.
All right, ladies.
All
I
right,
got to
thank you so
go.
much. Take care. Bye bye.
Take care. I did record this. I will post it in the Heartbeat community group, and I'll tag you guys where it is.
All
All
right, thank
righty. It was good to
you.
see you all.
Bye bye.
Bye.